Hello everyone, this is Bart Kamp again, together with Malcolm Blunt, Peter Antil, sitting here as well, as a casual observer. Yeah, this is part 2 of our chat in July 2022, and we're going to talk about some documents, and then we'll jump in wherever is needed. So, various different subjects. So, Malcolm, take it away, please.
Yeah, this first document is to do with inquiries by the Select Subcommittee, the Church Committee, for tapes. Tapes in the Kennedy Library, and they were trying to get access to tapes. And Bert Marshall was the person that was actually dealing with it. So I pass it over to you.
Thank you very much. What is significant of this? The significance of this?
I think Bert Marshall's involvement in the discussions, because he seems to be the gatekeeper for a lot of Kennedy tapes, sensitive material.
So these tapes did see the light of day then?
Possibly.
Okay. Yeah, it says, while in my office, Fenn made it clear that he not only wanted to make the tapes available to the church committee, but that he also wanted to do everything necessary to make them available as soon as possible and to the fullest extent possible to the public. He reported that this would mean, first, checking the transcripts against the tapes and against the dictabelt recordings in order to determine the accuracy of the transcriptions. Second, reviewing the transcriptions for security information and for any information that should be closed under term of donor restrictions. Third, further finding aids would have to be prepared. And this is not a complete document by the looks of it. What's next?
Well, we go back to the Jones-Proti stuff. This is Weiss's statement.
Okay, Stephen Weiss.
Stephen Weiss.
112.
I mean, maybe you could just read the bottom of it, Bart. And
okay.
Then the top part of the second page. And it's
Weiss said that in circa 1982, approx 3 weeks prior to his retirement, he was an intelligence oversight officer, another name for Inspector General. He attended a meeting at which some high-level personnel showed him some material which he said, "It scared the shit out of me." Weiss thinks they were just trying to get his reaction to the material as one of the guys, but they soon realized he was not very amused or happy about it and began pretending it never happened. I reminded Weiss of the independent nature of the review board and our desire to place everything at Nara for the American people. I then told him I'd like to discuss the 1982 event with senior staff here for a potential interview at his home. Weiss said the material does not relate specifically to the assassination itself, but does relate to the Warren Commission and dossiers. Weiss said, "It devastated me for many years. I lived pretty straight and knew government people should not have done what they did." End quote. Conversation then switched to Weiss' knowledge of events surrounding the assassination, of which he made the following statements. He was a first lieutenant assigned to the 112th in Dallas during 1963. Prior to the Dallas trip, his office received word from Colonel Robert E. Jones, who ordered them to offer full cooperation to the USSS, that's the Secret Service, in preparation for JFK's visit to Dallas. An agent in charge named possibly Sauer, S-O-U-R, of USSS, allegedly said, "No, we don't need any assistance from anyone. Both us and the Texas Department of Public Safety will handle everything." His group, which he said included people like Major James E. Cloud, was surprised to hear that they, the U.S. Secret Service, had everything under control. The 112 had not done any special training with the USSS, but did have weapons, and he feels they could have been of some help. Since his unit wasn't helping that day, he decided to walk down in front of a hotel named either the Baker or Adolphus to watch the motorcade. After it passed, he returned to his office and was with Colonel Tate, who had just returned from Korea. They heard sirens and the secretary running saying JFK had been shot. Then they really didn't hear too much over the radio for a few moments. A little later, Don Stringfellow, who worked for Lieutenant Revel of the DPD intelligence, called and asked, "Do you have got anything on a name called Harvey?" Weiss checked the files, found nothing, and hung up the phone. About 45 minutes later, Stringfellow called again and asked, "How about checking for anything on a Lee Harvey Oswald?" Weiss asked if Lee H.O. killed JFK, and Stringfellow replied, "No, but he's a cop killer." He recalled Ed Coyle of his group went to a meeting before the assassination to talk with James Hosty of the FBI and a guy from ATF regarding a gun running case. This is regarding, what's his name again? The guy who they said there was a dead ringer for Oswald, but he wasn't there. He's still alive. Sorry?
John Thomas Mason.
Yeah, that's it. John Thomas Mason. And the last bit is here. He feels we should know that another person from the unit called James Powell was on the steps of the TSBD and took pictures, but he didn't recall of what. Yeah, James Powell took a picture of the front of the building when Bonnie Ray Williams was still leaning outside of the window. There's a color.
That's interesting.
That's a color photo. Oh, I'll email it to you. It's a color photograph. It's shot within minutes
Have we got
after
all the photographs?
Sorry?
Did we get all the photographs from Powell?
That's the photo I know that he took, but I don't know about any other photos. But Powell got inside of the TSBD, and then he had to have somebody of a higher rank come and get him out, because they wouldn't let him get out of the TSBD as such. So, yeah, I do have this document.
Okay.
I know that.
And this one is the Los Alamos report, which I copied about 27 times. Oh dear.
This is Roger A. Mead. What is this, about the neutron analysis, or what is this? Oh no, movies. Okay.
Film.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it talks about Zapruder. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll publish that. No problem.
And you got a guy on the education forum that's talking about the Minox. Did you see that stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm not giving him anything yet.
I thought you did quite well.
Yeah?
I thought you did quite well.
Well, I'm preparing an article on the Minox myself.
Oh, right.
So, I see him as the competition.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I've been collecting everything on the Minox since you've given me the collection. So I was like, and since it's photography related, that's what I want to report about.
Sure. Yeah.
So I said, okay, hold on. I'm going to write a report about it. But here's the thing with your collection is that because everything is spread over all your folders, I never know when I've got everything complete. So
Oh, you're still on a journey.
yeah.
You're still on a journey.
Yeah, so, you know, and the thing is, like, I've got a fair amount on it, and I probably could put together a pretty good story, but the worst part would be, like, I come across a folder before I finish your collection, and all of a sudden there's stuff on the Minix, and then it's not part of the article as such. Now, of course I can update it, but, you know, it wasn't also not really a priority for me to put that together. The 4 papers were basically the thing to do. And
Yeah,
what's...
This one is another one to do with possibly missing testimony and missing stuff again. It's stuff where the review board identified the fact that there was numerous material they hadn't got and they needed. That's quite an interesting document.
I think I might have this, but I will keep it. But yeah, that's a good document, and it's complete. So isn't that a daisy? Yeah, no, this is a good document. This is for people that are bored talking about the single bullet theory for the up-teens time.
And that's the one, I'm pretty sure you've got that. I copied it so many times. It's the unedited.
Oh, the accession number one.
Yeah, the one that came up with 4 boxes and.
This is Warren Commission testimony.
Yeah.
And it's missing.
Yeah.
But the problem is that this has already been missing for 60 years by the looks of it, because this is from 1965.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we've discussed this before. An accession number is a gold ticket at the archives. It basically means if you give them this number, they know where to go and pick it out off the shelf and go, here you go. But in this case, no, not. It's not the case. So blame or think of it as you would like to, but yeah.
You can give the accession number, and maybe somebody listening might contact them and ask for it.
I might just do it. I'll just
different explanation.
Yeah, exactly. Because these are unedited transcript, or what is it exactly? This.
Yeah, there were 2 things that came up. I think it looked like there were 2 lots of things. There were extracts from the testimony, which were cut out down there, and then there was the testimony they took from people before they got the scissors out. So those 4 boxes are the 4 boxes that came up of testimony taken in Dallas of witnesses before the scissors cut things out.
So, are you surprised that's missing? No, I'm not.
Disappointed.
I'm not surprised at all, because that would basically make them look rather suspect of what they've done.
It's a memo from I think this came from Jack Wallen, CIA, and that must have been in Miami, I think, and it's commented on by Brennan to Papich. No, it's from Papich to Brennan, and it's about Alpha 66, if you want to read that.
Okay.
And that probably needs posting as well.
Alpha 66, right? Yeah.
If you see the significance.
No, it's an interesting document, definitely. Yeah. I mean, overall, Alpha 66 was active in Dallas, but there isn't a lot written.
CIA said they had no operational interest or no interest whatsoever.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So,
lie to me again.
And this one is a CIA letter. I think from the General Counsel. It's unsigned. It looks like a draft, and it's got all sorts of handwritten stuff on it.
Okay.
It's to do with trafficante, and what this demonstrates is CIA use of euphemistic language. The way they try and dissolve communications, by using this CIA speak. It's quite an interesting document when you're looking at this stuff.
Okay. Who's this from? Scott?
It doesn't say.
No, it doesn't.
General Counsel. It could be from Rindinger or one of these other people in the Office of General Counsel.
All right. So it's basically Robert Blake had asked whether there was a connection between the CIA and Santos Trafficante.
And you see the strangled answer they give.
A diligent search of the agency's files has failed to disclose any record of Mr. Trafficante as an employee, agent, or independent contractor of the agency. Well, no, you wouldn't write that down, would you? I think they learned all that after Guatemala. Don't write all this stuff down. Yeah, or it went in a burn bag. Simple as that. But it's a secret.
Do you see the way they sort of like dissolve into this other stuff.
Certain of the agency's records do reflect, indirectly, relationships between Mr. Traficante and third persons
Yeah.
who have been of interest to this
really?
agency.
Really?
From these records, it is simply not possible to judge the scope of Mr. Traficante's past activities, the basis on which he may have undertaken any particular activities, or his perception of, and then you've got all this stricken through, a possible relationship with the agency, whether any activities he may have undertaken were actually on behalf of this agency.
God.
So as far as this agency is concerned, there's no reason why Mr. Traficante should not respond fully and completely to any inquiry from the House Select Committee on Assassination. And then you've got a lot of handwritten stuff, and that needs closer looking into, but I'll leave that to somebody else. The response secure. Right. Yeah, this is a very interesting document. It's very cool.
And this one is, you know, the stuff that was in. Let me think where it was. Yeah, this is part of the Department of Justice. And it's to do with Warren Commission documents.
Okay.
But you can't, you see, you get these things on one date in 1 year, and then you get another document which really relates to that in a totally different place 5 years later or 6 years later, which is that one. It's a different document.
Oh, there's a RIF number to look for. Oh yeah. Now, OLC's Office of Logistics.
Office of Legal Counsel.
Legal Counsel, sorry.
Legal Counsel.
Right, this is 3 years prior. Okay. Right.
But you have to look at who signed off on it.
Yeah.
Who signed off on that document there when you left hand?
That was Lawrence Houston.
Lawrence and Houston.
General,
you know, this is big.
Big?
He's big.
He's General Counsel.
Yeah, he's the guy that kept the CIA out of trouble. And then you look at that document.
This is Jack M. Goldklang, Office of Legal Counsel.
Yeah.
The files.
Warren stuff that was excluded from the Warren Commission.
Notes in OLC safe on Warren Commission documents. Prepared by Dudley Chapman.
In your left hand, Dudley Chapman. Yeah.
And basically the content is, these notes summarize documents collected by the Warren Commission which were not made public. According to Mr. Chapman, the law requires that every 5 years the documents be reviewed to see what additional documents can be released. The notes are therefore being retained in the OLC safe should the occasion arise when OLC may be asked again to participate in the required review. And before that, what I just said was 72, and this is in 69. Again, restricted documents, classified CIA documents in the files of the Warren Commission report on the assassination of Kennedy. The purpose of the review was to make a recommendation as to what further documents could be released publicly. And then they've done the review, and it says, well, there are some items in the CIA documents, such as newspaper clippings and others, which appear to be suitable for release. They have decided the CIA documents should remain in the restricted category at this time. No recommendation will be made, therefore, and the documents will remain unavailable to the public as they have been. So, and then the next formal review will be in 1970, so there should be another letter in between this.
Yeah, all you get is that one.
Because that's 72. But then the question is, did this stuff ever get released? Of course not.
Well, I went to the chief archivist for the JFK stuff with that document.
Now that riff, can you check that for me, please?
With the Dudley Chapman thing,
Right.
in the gold clack safe.
Yeah.
And he jumped on it and said, oh yeah, he was going to get in touch with the review board and chase it, make sure, if the stuff was available, they would get released. But never heard anything. Never heard anything.
And that's how that goes.
Yeah, and this is.
It's stuff that would probably embarrass the agency. Otherwise, I mean, if they have no beef in it, then it wouldn't be a problem. It's like, yeah, give it away.
But this one you see is Michelle Coombs, who worked for the review board.
Yeah.
But she was basically, previously she was at the agency, she was at CIA. And she worked for the historians. But you get files that come in which really we'd like to see, and then they get handled in a most peculiar way. Because when you read this, she's looking for liaison files between FBI and NSA. That would be interesting. And but for some reason she only looks at files covered in the time period 1950 to 1960. I mean, what happens to the later files? Why don't you ask for those? How weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
She's still alive?
I think so, yeah. She's probably gone back to the agency.
Ah.
Come out, do the good work for the review board and then go back.
Have you ever tried to contact Betsy Wolfe?
No. I remember asking Jim Nazar, and Jim said, as far as he knew, she didn't want to talk to anybody.
I need to hear that firsthand. No disrespect, but
Well, I talked to Dan. Alan talked to Dan about Betsy Wolfe, and you would think they would be in contact with each other, these old HSE
yeah.
guys, but yeah, don't seem to be. It's like Klein, the guy that interviewed, took the testimony of Lysenko and did all the work on Lysenko, Ken Klein. Nobody talks to him, but you should talk to him.
Yeah, you were
All these
thinking
people
like they had a little gathering of...
all these people in the States. There's plenty of people they could be talking to. I never talk to them. They go on a forum and start blowing bullhorns.
About the single bullet theory.
Or criticising people that have done some research.
Yeah. Yeah, that's easier than picking up the phone or write a letter or an email.
Original research.
Bullhorning. You've heard it here before. You heard it here first, people. Bullhorning in the JFK case. Now I could start swearing, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to let it slide.
But what we do is try and battle on, but there's lots of stuff we need and we don't get. It says here it doesn't give the number, unfortunately, but the number is about 50 histories that we need, CIA histories, and we've got very few. Sam Halpern's history was released, and then we get fragments from somebody else's, Dick Drain's, a few CIA people.
So J. Barry Harrelson was actually assigned to answer the ARB, wasn't he? I mean,
yeah, because he was chief of the historical review group. Yeah, he was the lead person.
right. Okay. Yeah, it's JFK Project Officer, HRP OIM. Right. And what people should know is that when the ARB, they've got these small codes that are called CIA-7 or whatever number is behind them. They've got them for the FBI as well. And they just basically relate to a certain subject as such. This is also something that you can search in the archive that I put together. There's a list from the ARB which tells you exactly what these numbers, like CIA 5, 4, whatever, in this case it's CIA-7, what it actually means, what it actually curtails as such. So for those people that are interested in trying to figure that out, good luck trying to do that. But there's like, I think about 30 odd numbers of these so-called subjects, if I'm not mistaken, with the FBI included and so forth, where they have
But
these
there are a lot
groups.
of histories, you see, that we need to see. There's a JM Wave history. We haven't got that. There's a Mexico City history. We don't have that. These are all internal things which the review board looked at. An individual CIA officers, lots of their stuff. People gave testimony. Richard Drain gave testimony. There's just loads of stuff which must be labelled NBR and should be released. All this internal CIA stuff was seen by the review board, labelled NBR. Where is it? Where is it?
In an NBR folder inside an NBR cabinet.
It's still NBR. And we getting back to another Papich Brennan, and this time is Jack Bauman, who's Chief of Security Covert Operations CIA Miami. This is so interesting. If you can read that very slowly and give people some idea of CIA use of euphemistic language.
Okay, so this is dated August 8th, 1962.
Yep.
Movimento Revolucionario
MRP,
del Pueblo,
yeah.
MRP.
Yeah.
So, enclosed for the Bureau are 9 copies. So this is a letter to the director of the FBI from the special agents in charge in Miami. And this is 9 copies of a letterhead memorandum dated and captioned as above. On July 26, 1962, Mr. Jack Bauman, Chief of Security Covert Operations CIA Miami, advised that CIA does not have a controlling interest in the MRP, and that although it does have an interest in specific projects of the MRP, this interest cannot be described as coming within the terminology of an operational interest. Yeah. Pull the other one.
Yeah.
Miami will continue to follow the activities of the MRP through appropriate contacts and informants.
And what did you just send me? You sent me a document.
About the assassination thing.
A cable.
Yeah.
On which it says, on the second page, it says assassinations and sabotage.
Yeah.
And then it goes into a list: plastic explosives, detonators, all this stuff. And what exactly is the outfit? It's the MRP. How'd you square that
Yeah.
with the cable?
Yeah, you can't. It's ridiculous.
They're saying one thing here and doing another thing there. That's their disguised language.
Did Donald Trump write that memo?
It would have been more direct.
Or was it Boris?
It would have been more direct.
No, because it's not direct. Because it's not direct.
It's not direct.
I think it was Boris. British. So.
So it's so important. The disguised language stuff is like, it's unbelievable.
But that's part of their modus operandi. I mean, come on, straightforward answer.
And this is one I'd like in complete form, but I don't know where it is. I got this out of review board files, and it's incomplete. It's just a few pages of a much longer testimony. A very important guy who was closely involved with Alan Dulles.
What's his
a guy
name?
called Thomas Parrott.
Okay, so it's testimonies before the church committee.
Yep.
Box 27, folder 2. So it's about the
Yeah, but
plans to attempt to
Yeah.
assassinate Fidel Castro.
But we need it in complete form. You know, we don't need just a few pages. We want it all.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll have a little look online. Oh, there's a riff here. Okay. No, that's different.
Probably another riff or
No,
something
this
else.
is Jacqueline Godoy, Movimento.
Oh, that's for that, this one.
Oh, right. That belongs to that. Hold on.
That one's...
Have a look at the subject matter. That will explain it. Which one is which.
And then we get, this is more Assassination Records Review Board, where they requested stuff and they got it, but we haven't seen it. In other words, it's MBR, but still not, as far as I know, not released. And that's an interesting group of...
Okay, but now I'm going to be the devil's advocate. Because in what way? I mean, you can't just say something is not... If you say something that's not belief relevant, it's not belief relevant with regards to the JFK Act. Yeah? Or the assassination as such. But the question is then, is it actually relevant or is it not
It
relevant?
doesn't make any difference, because whether it was relevant or not relevant, everything had to be released in 2017. But it wasn't. Instead we get the can kicked down the road again. I mean, I've said to you before, sure, I can understand things like the CIA telephone directory, internal, for 1997. They wouldn't want that released, and I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I can understand that. But much of this other stuff, they tend to use a very broad brush for NBR. Goes over everything. All that is of interest to us, I believe.
Can you see here the code is already CIA-IR-34. So you can see how many groups they've created just on the Central Intelligence Agency. God, it must have driven them bonkers. It must have driven them bonkers big time, all these requests. Yeah. Very interesting.
And this is the final thing I'd like to do to close was the wonderful Len McCoy, who was the biggest advocate that Yuri Nosenko was a genuine defector. Paragraph 5 of this monologue here.
Right.
Nosenko was probably the most valuable source of counterintelligence information that the US government has ever had, and the enormous scope and value of his information attests conclusively to his bona fides as a defector. He identified, let's wait for it, some 2,000 KGB officers.
Ha!
2,000?
2,000. That's practically everyone around that time.
2,000 KGB officers and 300 Soviets. How'd you do that? I mean...
Yeah. That can only be done if you have a list on
you. Did you go to school or college? Can you remember 2,000 people?
No. Let alone 200.
Good God.
Yeah.
I mean, the sheer nonsense of this man is just beyond belief. Unbelievable. So that's the Len McCoy one, which is definitely out there. I just I found it extraordinary when I first found it, and I still find it extraordinary that people believe that crap.
Well, you know what? Because what some people don't know is you have sometimes only a riff sheet, and then I put the number in, and then before you know it, you find a document, but also you find a related document that's been released that you haven't got your hands on, and all those collateral assists with that. And then you start reading it, and it starts making sense, because I've absolutely no affiliation with the subject matter as such. You tell me something about the document when I send, say for instance, the document that's been published as such, and then you send it, and you send me a response back, and then I find another document that basically sheds more light on that particular matter as such. That I find very interesting. Just the discovery part of it actually is kind of, there's a bit of the thrill of the search and so forth. Not so much finding real answers, but just getting more information.
That was on the Mary Ferrell.
It's online.
Yeah. At Alpha 66.
Right. Okay. That's no bother. But yeah, that part I find just very interesting. And of course, the parts that, the little nuggets of gold that tend to appear. I mean, for me, it's of course it's.
But some of it's in the older collections, really. There's quite interesting stuff in the McCombs collection.
Yeah.
A lot of really interesting stuff there. And of course, we only got one batch of that. You see.
Oh, they edited the Living Daylights out of that. You can just see that because you only get partial bits. And when I ask about the photo, because he was part of the crew that started together with Hugh Ainsworth and a few others for Time Life to basically collect the photographs and get people's permission and have contracts made off to say, I don't know, I'm just making it up, like say the Weaver Polaroid.
One of the most interesting documents is, which I found, you probably got it in the collection, was instructions from McCombs to head office in New York, Time Life, that they should make an archive of all the Kennedy research they did. Where's that?
Yeah. No, it's
Would you
somewhere.
like to see that?
It's in the basement somewhere.
At Time Life, would
Yeah.
you like to see their
It'll be in the basement.
JFK
Yeah.
investigation archive?
Yeah. Because the thing is, they worked hard on getting these people that took the photos and the films to pay them for the usage of that material for the magazine as such, and it wasn't a lot of money back then. What, $60, $70?
You probably get an answer of something like, oh, well, we did have it, but when the World Trade Center fell down, it was in World Trade Center 7, which is where CIA had an office, a big office. Did you know that?
Yeah, you've mentioned this before, because the Library of Congress also had copies there, and all of that went gone.
And then that famous photographer, Jacques Loeb, he had all his photographs there.
That's online as well.
That is.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said in our first talk, we've lost a lot. But again, there's plenty left.
There's a lot left, yeah, but sometimes it's hard to get disheartened.
I know.
But like you were saying with Harold, thank God there were people around like Harold.
Everybody owes a massive debt to Harold Weisberg.
Plus, he's put so much of it out there.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the first generation researchers, they've just kept it like that.
Some of them
we
still
don't
do
see
it.
it.
Yeah.
We don't see it.
Hoarding
it's not shared.
Yeah.
We can't build on it.
Right.
We can't interpret it. We
You'll
can't
never solve the
analyse
case
it.
like that.
We don't know what it is.
Yeah, but people always talk about the research community, and I'm going, what
That's
community?
an oxymoron.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about a group of people that only in name, apparently, because they just discuss and write about the subject, but that's about as far as it goes, And people always say, like, oh, we should get together and do this, that, and the other. And I'm going, what's the point? And people will only come in to find out what they can get to enrich their own little collection without giving anything out themselves, being selfish and all that. So This is what's
There's a lot
so...
of things that should be shared. That's true. You know. I mean, if you go to Baylor, I mean, at least Gus Rousseau has got part of his collection there. Paul Hoke has got part of his collection there. You've got Penn Jones in his collection there. There is an opportunity to look at other research, John Armstrong stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, you know, which some researchers have given up. Dick Russell's put a bit of stuff in there.
It's coming. I know that Project JFK is working with Dick Russell's material, and they're digitizing it. And they digitized part of Gary Shaw stuff, and Baylor has actually asked them whether they were interested in digitizing everything, because Baylor, they're not interested in pursuing this more and more. Baylor put the stuff online years back, Jack White stuff, this, that and the other, some of Penn Jones stuff.
Jack White's collection was there at Baylor.
Yeah.
There was masses of stuff there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
You know, there's no excuses for people not to be able to do the stuff these days and share stuff. You know,
Yeah, but it's easier.
But it is because you get this, you know.
Yeah, but it's easier to blow the bullhorn, to talk to the bullhorn, and on a forum than actually make contact and go, here's what I found, here's what I did, blah blah blah. It's just, you know, you and I think differently compared to the majority of the others, and just getting this stuff out. And I mean,
important. It's very important.
and you know what? It's the same thing what you mentioned when it comes to going to Nara. Well, I haven't been yet, but you say it yourself, when you were there for prolonged periods of time, that the people that you did see there were there for a day or maybe two, and then basically they buggered
Gone.
off and they were gone. And
You can't do it.
how is that possible? I mean, but you also told me that, for instance, that Harry Livingston wasn't really the type of person that could sit down there and go
It's
through.
too sensitive. You know, he felt like he was being watched, which
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah, he was.
Because,
Yeah, there's a stack of FBI documents. But you know what? This is another thing. I never knew this about Harry, is that he was actually already investigating this in the 80s, in the early 80s as such, and it's written about in the FBI documents. And I was like, my God, he was already doing this like 40 odd years ago, back then, although he didn't have made a name for himself until like, what, 10 years later when he wrote his first book.
yeah.
But he was involved already for quite some time. And the FBI basically made reports about him as such. And, you know, just unbelievable, but the lingo and all that was used, and how much he was actually being watched as such. Did he actually know about these documents, that they were basically having files on him?
I never showed him to him.
No?
No, I felt it would affect him badly. I wanted to protect him for that.
I think it would
That
drive,
would-
that would drive him nuts.
That would have just really not gone down very well.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, these guys are doing their job, but at the same time, if you are on the other side, on Harry's side, then it's like, what the hell? You know, it's just being investigated as such.
But
These,
those files, you know, we talked about earlier on, those FBI files from Dallas, that's the 89A FBI files and the 175A files, which are to do with the JFK assassination investigation. We only have up until 1993, so there's been, how long? 29 years of stuff gone into FBI files, which we haven't seen.
yeah.
We haven't seen. I mean, somebody should FOIA that stuff. Put a FOIA in.
You should actually, you know,
Well, I've got so many I've got, I don't know how many I've got. You know, occasionally I'll get like a ream of letters saying your FOIA is still in process for maybe 5 years ago.
right.
That's the system.
Have your earlier FOIAs all been answered, or do you have stuff outstanding 10, 15 years, or 20 years, or how does this work?
I think I've probably got some going back 15 years. But you know,
If we could thank
one of the
Richard Nixon
first-
for this.
one of the first people to use the FOIA was Jim Lazar on behalf of, Harold Weisberg, looking for a Slauson draft, a Warren Commission Slauson draft. And it's one of the most significant little documents, and I think John's probably focused on it in his latest book. It's about 25 pages, something like that. And it's one of these documents which is typewritten, but every so often it's scratched out and there's marginalia and stuff like that. And it eventually showed up, got released. The CIA allowed the release of that document in 2010. So that was 37 years that's been classified for a draft. And I looked at that document forwards and backwards and I thought, what the hell do they classify this for 37 years for? And it's one tiny thing. In the margin, Slauson refers to correspondence with Bruce Soley, who's the Office of Security Chief.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
you
yes.
can't find any document about Soley in a Warren Commission files. There's nothing there. Nothing. Zero. And you can't even find on the two lists that they gave, one to the review board and one to the HSCA, no admittance at all from CIA that he was in communication with the Warren Commission. Forwards and backwards. It's not there. They've just absolutely excised him from history. As far as the Warren Commission goes. I mean, 37 years. But it is significant because it relates to Nosenko. What Slauson does, in one paragraph, he parrots, loosely parrots what Slauson said in his letter to Slauson about Nosenko. And basically it's a defence. Well, that's wrong. That's a security officer in the spring of 1964 defending a defector that comes across in January 64. In other words, they haven't talked to him properly yet. What's he doing defending him? Hello? Wake up.
Yeah.
Something wrong there. Big time.
Yeah. This stuff raises more questions than it gives answers. And that's part of the game. That's the thing. It's just part of the game. You know? Whenever you think like, oh, I figured it out. No, you haven't. You've just gotten way further away from the subject matter at hand and such. I mean, I've been lucky to some extent to be able to piece things together by putting it in a chronological order. I think you've got a much heavier task in front of you when it comes to that, because I'm dealing with amateurs compared to the pros over there in Langley, you know, because that's their thing as such, and you'll never. But I mean, this is the frustrating part, and probably the reason why I wouldn't be involved with any of the agency researchers is because you just can't figure it out. You can only figure out to a certain extent, but when you figure certain things out, you get more questions, and you just go, I thought I was going to get an answer of some sort, but you don't. You're just being sent somewhere else, in a different room, in a different corridor, and you have to go through all that to
You have
figure.
to recognise where you're being misdirected.
Yeah.
I think that's because you get a lot of misdirection. I'm sure, and then you see it in books. You know, certain people write books, and it's done for a purpose. It's done to misdirect.
I think a great exercise when you're speaking about misdirection is all this hubbub about David Atlee Phillips 10 years ago, when everybody was just, he was involved in this and that and blah blah blah, and the chief of Western Hemisphere and this, that and the other, la di da di da. And you know, everybody was jumping on it and basically condemning David Atlee Phillips of being the head honcho in organising the assassination as such, this, that, and
I'm
the
not
other.
sure about that.
No, nor am I.
But his relationship with Bassiano, I think, is there.
Oh yeah, that
It's
part,
definitely
sure.
there. It's definitely there. I'm not sure. In the context of Bassiano, I'm pretty sure there was a meeting in Dallas.
Oh no, I don't believe that one.
I think so.
That
Because-
Win Johnson who said that. This guy is a total.
Yeah, wait, leave him out. But I mean, I could see it in a way. I could see, in my mind, I could see why you would want to do that. Why would you're thinking about this, why would you want to expose two people? You expose Lee Harvey Oswald and expose Tony Bassiano. Yeah, you have to bear in mind what was happening. Bassiano was followed everywhere by the FBI. That meeting would have been surveilled by the FBI. No question. Can you imagine?
The problem I have.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, no, well, I don't have any problem with that. The problem I have is basically with the person who basically said that he saw Vessiana and Oswald and Phillips, and he's the only source. This is the problem I have. There's nothing to support that. I mean, this is the bit I'm specifically talking about. And
Well, it's very difficult to get your head around the fact that a CIA operative would do something which is very poor. Well, it's forbidden, absolutely forbidden tradecraft. You can't do what he did.
that
Allegedly
open.
do, to expose one person with another person.
Yeah.
In other words, his operative,
Yeah.
Bassiano, with another one.
Yeah, this is just.
Oswald. It doesn't make
It
any
does,
sense.
exactly.
Unless it was a show and tell, knowing that the FBI were surveilling it. So that when you come to the 22nd of November '63,
But for that,
you've got Bassiano as one of the people involved in the assassination.
it's not enough for me to buy that. I need to see paperwork.
Yeah, you didn't go and see the.
Yeah, well, there you go. So then you've got a problem because then you've only got one source. And for me, one source is useless because even a newspaper. See, this is another thing. Conspiracy theorists think that one source is enough for a story to be true. Well, I'm sorry. You know what? In the normal world, newspaper people say, second source? Third source? No, I've only got one. They won't print it. Simple as that. So why in conspiracy theory circles it can and it's seen as truth as such? I'm sorry.
But
Until
you
that.
can't, it's very difficult to get anything for. Well, you can't get anything out of Dave Phillips. For sure.
No, but I wouldn't expect to either. Why would these people tell the truth about something like that? What?
Well, this was a thing that that John Newman and Dan Hardaway jumped on. The fact that this was a device. This meeting with Oswald Bassiano was a device, protection device, against any CIA excesses against him.
It's pure speculation as far as I'm concerned. That's the way I look at it. I need to see more. Until then, I'm ready to revise, but for that would need more evidence to basically say, all right, it happened. Because as far as I'm concerned now,
I'm not there with it, but I'm saying that's a possibility, the only possibility I could think of. Because you have to think, for sure, Bassiano was surveilled and followed everywhere. Everywhere. We've only got a fraction of his files from the FBI. A fraction. He's got dozens and dozens and dozens. It takes pages. Pages of files on Bassiano. We've only seen a snapshot. They were all over him like a virus.
like COVID-19.
So, can you imagine? This guy gets off a plane, drives into Dallas, they're monitoring, they're following him everywhere. And he sees his case officer at the Southland Centre, And Oswald. maybe.
Oh mate, nah.
It's
It's just too much.
the bit that people miss out is the fact that Versino was followed everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. But are these files at NARA or is it just?
They could well be. Some of Versino's files could well be at NARA.
So when we talk files, FBI files overall.
We've got two lots. We've got two destinations for the files when they're redundant. We've got a huge facility which is in Boyers, Pennsylvania, a place called Pickett's Lock,
Yeah.
and that's their massive old file place, redundant file place. And then some of the stuff which is, I don't know who makes a decision on this, but somebody makes a decision. I know that the Fair Play for Cuba Committee files are at NARA. You can't see them, but they're there. I mean, I did see them for 3 days by mistake.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know really. I asked. Well, there was a new person. That's how it happened. A brand new
I didn't
person.
know.
And she was a really lovely lady. And I asked for the files, and I got them.
For 3 days you had full access.
Full access, completely unredacted. Fair Play for Cuba.
And then what happened?
They realised somebody, the penny dropped.
Did you copy all that stuff then?
No, I copied some of it. You should have some of it in the Cuban
Yeah.
stuff.
So and then what did they say?
I think I was copying the stuff that when I saw familiar names on it, Hal Verb, researcher, his name was on some documents.
Yeah. I know
as an
him, yeah.
informant. So.
Yeah. But then they said what, on the 4th day, no, you can't have them anymore or what? What did they say?
When I went to pick the trolley up, they said, "Oh no, that's had to be returned."
When was this? In the 90s or was?
Yeah, 90s.
Yeah?
But I was so green, you know. 10 years later, it would have been living at a photocopier forever until I got as much as possible. Yeah. I mean, box
Yeah.
after box after box after box.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing. When you said those files are in Pennsylvania, Pickett's Lock?
Yeah, Boyers.
Boyers.
Yeah.
Is that a place that you can access or?
No, you'd have to write to the. You have to write first in the first instance to FBI headquarters in Washington D.C.
Right.
And there's a part of that that deals with requests and FOIAs and stuff like that.
That would be awesome, just to get in there, just look it all through. Gosh, we'd never leave.
But a lot of that stuff gets in there, you see. A lot of that stuff does you rightly say, somebody makes a decision. It's not sent to the huge storage facility, it's sent to NARA. I guess because that Fair Play for Cuba Committee could seem have very strong value from the historical perspective. So those files are there.
That's Monty.
That's Monty. Okay, Monty.
Yeah. Good old Montgomery. What else have we got left to talk about? We've been on it for just under an hour. Or shall we call it a day?
I think so.
Yeah, let's call it a day. Okay, everybody. Thanks for listening in, looking in, watching this. And we'll do another one probably in August or September. And we'll talk some more. Maybe we'll talk some more specifics. And also, I'm going to prepare you now. We're going to do a talk about Dallas. So it's you and me. And just what happened in there, the files and so forth. In more in depth and so forth. So, yeah, thanks for listening, watching, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you and goodbye. Bye bye.